Welcome to Spiritual Boom, the video and audio podcast. I am your host, Edgar Cayce, a soul realignment and new earth specialist. My show has evolved to where we are now going to really focus on the new earth and more into discussing and being the shiny, new, ascended human. My website, EdenJustBe.com, and let's get this party started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We are about to dive in with our guest and discussing Pleiadian healing technology that is available now in the United States, specifically in Virginia. Wow, wow, wow. Beyond that, we are going to talk to Dr. Joseph McNamara about Edgar Cayce, the monad, blending this balance of blending Western medicine to the alternative to UFOs, specifically Tachyon, I said that wrong, Tachyon energy, which is this Pleiadian technology and the Tachyon chambers, which he does. And we discussed this off air at the end of the show, but I think this is important. You need to go to Virginia to get in his chamber, which is Marion, Virginia specifically. And he recommends 5 sessions. Those sessions are only $100 a piece. So this is even if you have to travel, because he does have a lot of international guests that come, it is very affordable for the masses. So really, really interesting. And I have to add the Just Be practice at the end. We work with the Lord's Prayer, but in a very different way. It is quite beautiful and dramatic. 2 things I wanted to add. I am changing this podcast in beautiful, beautiful ways because it is time for it to reach more people. And within that, I'm also changing a lot within myself and how I do things. And I just wanted to express this to you guys today, just to really put the energy out there. One thing, I'm going to restructure what I do. I'm going to start to offer packages, a 10-session package on becoming a new earth human. I didn't realize over the past 6 years in doing this podcast and also the healing work that I do on myself, I have become very wise or acclimated into doing this. And then also my next step in terms of moving to another state, and I'll discuss that later. All of this is going to be changing and happening over the next couple months, but starting the package now as I start to go through this transition, it is going to be amazing. So the package is to figure out where you are right now, but to talk about everything about being a new earth human, what it takes in terms of mindset, in terms of your home, in terms of what you digest, in terms of relationships, news, music, everything in your life, in terms of what you put on your skin, in terms of what you clean your house with, in terms of the structure of your house. Yeah, I'm really excited to move into this. And then I just want to mention, by the time the show is published, I will have completed my Breatharian initiation. So in terms of eating, in terms of what I'm going to be able to share with that, it's fun to state this now because I have no idea what it's going to be like, yet I am so pumped. I feel all the energy moving through my body. I had to tell one of my clients this past week. So for three days at least, we will not, like I've done a lot of fasting. We'll do fasting, but also without water, and for 3 days. And he is very much into numbers and to statistics and that sort of thing. And he said, Eden, the human body cannot live 3 days without water. And we have a session when I get back. He's like, kind of joking, you may be dead at that point. And I beautifully not laughed at him, but laughed with him. And I'm like, it's going to be great. It's going to be more than great. It's going to be eye-opening, because even if you see me again in a month and I'm not dead, what does that mean to you in terms of what you've been taught, in terms of what you've learned? We, as humans, are on the precipice of dramatic change. And I talk to you guys about that. I've been going through that every week, but I am on I think after this month, huge advancements. So please come along with me, continue watching the podcast, knowing it's just going to get deeper and deeper and better and better. Let's roll on with the show. And I do want to mention there are going to be a couple noises in the background. There's one point where Dr. Joseph gets a phone call, so you could get to hear the phone ringing. So please work with that. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Now we'll officially begin. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warriors Network. Out of Virginia, Dr. Joseph McNamara of Tachyon Counseling and the Tachyon Chambers. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
Good. So glad to have you here and to start our discussion. In just a second, I will read your bio. Yet, I want to let the people know how I usually do. Gold IRA Scams, episode 188. I feel like this is a really pivotal episode. I was involved in a gold IRA scam, and Miles Franklin helped me for 2 months to get out of it. They are a company of integrity. When they assisted me, it wasn't like I had to take my funds to them, which I did, but I didn't have to. So if you are concerned that you happen to be, and they also go in episode 188, what to look for in terms of scamming. All right, info@milesfranklin.com. Put Eden in the subject line so they know that you are coming from me. Also think investing in gold and silver right now, why not? It's great. And they can help with that too. Also, I do want to start talking more about for our bees, saving the bees and sacred honey and the pure wave cell. So I will talk more about that, but that episode has already been launched as well. So just good people that come on the show, heartfelt. I love it. And this is a great transition to you, Dr. Joseph. I'm going to read your bio right now. We're going to get started. All right. I put this in myself. So, classic medicine to alternative sacred geometry, DNA, energy, tachyons, blending science and spirituality. Dr. Joseph McNamara was born and raised in Ireland. So, there's a little bit of an accent that you have, but it is, to me, it is not like I really had to listen. And I was like, oh, there it is. After graduating medical school, he moved to the U.S., drawn there by what he felt was the most open minded and exciting culture in the world.
Mhm.
In the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, he practiced medicine for over 20 years as a physician. He started in emergency care, shifted to family medicine, and felt called to open his own practice. Okay, tell me he named it Cara N. Annam. Is that correct?
That
Close.
is
Okay.
correct.
All right, awesome. Which is Gaelic for friend of the soul. In 2012, he began working with the Earth Keeper organization, which aligned with his spiritual interests. As part of the leadership of Earth Keeper tours, he shared his knowledge of ancient Celtic lore, believing the humans are ready to listen. And with that, here's my first question that I usually ask. So, the Great Awakening, the world is a matrix, a simulation. How and when did you discover that to be the truth or the truth for you?
Well, I experienced it through myself, my own self-awakening. We're all born into a matrix, denoted by the family and by the nation that you're born into.
Mm-hmm.
So being in Ireland in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, it had just come through, of course, the Second World War. It wasn't a participant in the war, but it suffered mightily too. There was a lot of poverty, a lot of decay. So I was the first in my family. I was the youngest. So I was the first to experience the first blush of um, comfort and security that we had gained our independence from the British Empire. We had survived the Second World War. And now we could feel a certain pride and be in our own identity as a nation. So I was very gifted in that. And I had the opportunity to ask questions, look into different ways of viewing religions, culture, spirituality that just wasn't possible before. It was just night and day. The early part of the 20th century, you just had to do what you were told by everybody, politicians, priests, whatever. There came in the 60s those, well, why do I have to believe that? It doesn't make sense. Can you explain it? That was the opening of the spirituality of the 60s. And I was young then, yes, but I participated as much as I could.
So, how, like, I had my awakening to what I felt was God and the universe. Yet I didn't have my awakening to the truth of the matrix and the world until 2020. When you talk about it was just intrinsic within you, that I think that's so lovely because it's really deep. Like to be able to go that deep, like to me, it came in tears and in waves. And
Mm.
I know you have. Okay, so can you start with getting your, if I have this correct, your medical license in Ireland, but then this finding Edgar. How did you find Edgar Cayce?
Okay. Um, when I started in medical school,
Yeah.
I needed a form of exercise. So yoga was becoming very popular at the time. So I started to attend yoga classes and I really enjoyed them. The teacher was excellent, told us to meditate. And I had been going through a series of questionings myself about my own upbringing, my immersion in Roman Catholic tradition, which has its good side. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Um, so he suggested, well, you can get a more open approach to your Christian identity and beliefs if you read the books by Edgar Cayce. Well, I said, Edgar Cayce? I've never heard of him. That sounds Irish, but in fact, his name is not Irish. It's spelled a different way. So at the time, the macrobiotics was really big in the early and to mid 70s, and there was a macrobiotic restaurant in Dublin where I was going
Oh.
to college. Um, so they had a little bookstore, and as I was on my way out, I saw books by Edgar Cayce, and one of them that I picked up was Edgar Cayce on Atlantis, because that was something that struck me as, oh boy, I'd love to find out about that land to the west of Ireland that had been spoken about in legend for so long. And of course, I read the bio for Edgar Cayce himself. He was a devout Christian,
Yeah.
and yet the information that came through was staggering, and the amount of information, the broad range of topics that he discussed. So that for me was just so explosive. It felt like my head was coming off, and all sorts of like possibilities and questions began to enter in. And it was then that I understood that healing was not something that was applied from without necessarily, although uh, Western medicine has a lot to offer, but it had to align with something uh, central to your own core beliefs and understandings. So then I understood that you had to approach the human from the mind, body, spirit aspect. The mind played a huge part, which, yes, everybody agrees with that. Yes, psychology is very important. But how does the spiritual fit into that? So that was my challenge. And having my mind blown by Edgar Cayce, I then made a decision that when I finished with my education in Ireland, I would go to America so that I could learn more from the Edgar Cayce Clinic, which at the time was in Phoenix, in Arizona.
Whoa. Okay, so you were
Okay.
still studying medicine, like let's say
Yes.
classic medicine, and then were introduced to him at the same time. That must have
Uh-huh.
been very challenging too.
It was, but I was willing always to listen to opposing points of view.
Mhm.
My rising sign is Libra, so it's always about balance, and
Wow.
so okay, I may not agree with your opinion, but there are truths in what you're saying, so I will take that in. But will you listen to my truths too, so we can share? That's the Libra way of doing things, and I like that.
Yeah, that's really great. Okay, please continue.
So having found out about the clinic in Arizona, I contacted them by the old snail mail version back
Oh
in
my
the
God.
80s.
Yeah.
And there were Mr. and Mrs. or Dr. and Mrs. and both of them were doctors, in fact, McGarry. So they said, sure, come anytime you like, and we'd be happy to have you. It was a long way to Arizona from Ireland at that time. But again, luck played a part. There was a great man called Sir Freddie Laker in Britain who opened his own airline, Laker Airways, and he offered what he called the People's Bus, and he had
Oh,
flights going everywhere. And in other words, he treated an airplane like a bus. You went up to the driver of the bus, you paid your fee, you got on, and he took you where you were going. So at that time, there was a direct flight from London to Los Angeles. It cost at the time $100 to travel
wait.
one way from London to Los Angeles.
Okay, I have to sit with that for a moment.
Yes.
I'm just astounded knowing how difficult air travel is at this point. I won't say difficult, that's very judgmental, but yeah, there are a lot of steps to take. This just seems way too easy. I'd love to get back to that. That's neat.
Well, luck has, as they say, the luck of the Irish. Anyway, luck has played a large part in my path. But of course, I once I decide on something, I just assume everything is going to fall into
Mm.
place. That's just the way I work. So having got to London, paid my fare, I was allowed onto the airplane. There were no stewardesses. There were no meals. You had to bring your own food and water with you. So it took a long time going over the North Pole down to the west coast of the United States, landed in Los Angeles,
Mm.
stayed the night there, got a bus to Phoenix, and then very gracefully they met me at this bus station and they had a place for me to stay. So I spent 3 weeks there with Gladys McGarry, who actually just passed away, I think,
Oh,
last year at the age of 104.
wow.
So these principles are truthful and they do extend your lifespan. So that's what we want. We don't want to live forever. We want to live healthily as long
Mhm.
as we can.
Mhm. So
So that's
you're
how I
sorry,
got
go ahead.
to.
Yeah. Okay, so what
I,
happened from that point?
oh well, of course I delved in night and day into the Cayce readings as they practiced it in the at the ARE clinic in Phoenix at the time. ARE means Association for Research and Enlightenment. That was the organization that Edgar Cayce
Mhm.
formed in the 30s, 1930s. And it's still there in Virginia Beach. So if anybody wants to visit Virginia, have a nice beach vacation, you can also pay a visit to the Edgar Cayce Foundation there and enjoy it. So having been there and delved into it, met the patients, and being tutored, of course, by Miss Gladys, as they called her, uh, she said, you know, if you ever want to come back here and practice medicine, we would be honored to have you. And I said, really? Oh,
Wow.
okay. I never thought about that. So that set in train a process where I put myself on the track for applying for work in the United States after I completed my medical education. At that time, it was an exam called the Visa Qualifying Exam, VQE. It was held in London once a year. So
Mm.
as I was doing my internship in Dublin, in Ireland, I traveled to London, sat the exam, and was lucky enough to pass. So then I was available to apply for residency positions anywhere basically in the United States. But my favorite place was Virginia. I don't know why I was drawn to Virginia, but as I found out later, I've had lifetimes here, so that's why I felt the need to return there. And so I worked in Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, um, and stayed there for, well, a long time until I moved west in the western part of the state. And I have moved even further south and west now and live in a town called Marion, Virginia.
Let me ask you a question. I I would
Mhm.
assume that most of the listeners are familiar with Edgar Cayce. Like again, I'm familiar, yet I haven't I've listened and I have a really thick book which I read, which is lovely. Yet I wouldn't say that I'm a an expert on him. What would you say is the coolest thing that you've learned through him, or the, if you had to describe him maybe to someone, what would be the most spectacular thing that you would say?
Well, they call him America's seer. He was very popular about 100 years ago. That he
Yeah.
was being invited to every function. Even the president of the United States asked for a reading. So he was like the flavor of the month 100 years ago. I just found that when he started doing life readings for people, he was able to give them remarkable details, going back not just to Atlantis, but to Lemuria. So he was able to expand people's consciousness even back then. And being a great seeker in that way too, in terms of Ireland's very ancient past. It has a past going back to Atlantis as well in Irish legends, and we can talk about that as well if you need to. So that for me was profoundly amazing, that we have had other lifetimes that have formed us in specific ways, and now we're in this lifetime. And so we come in with individual purpose in mind. It's not just an aimless, luck of the draw type thing. It's very purposeful.
Yeah.
And the soul, the monad, that part of us that is a fractal of creator, of source, wants us to succeed, but allows us full latitude as to how to achieve that success. So that for me was the Edgar Cayce teaching that was like, oh, I get it now. Nothing is random. Nothing is random. That was like, wow, that was a big expansion of my imagination.
Isn't it wild too to think about 100 years ago being invited by the president, knowing that it's taken quite a long time for even yoga and meditation to become more accepted and more mainstream. I'm sure at the time, I kind of wasn't he put on trial for several things too? Is that does my memory serve me
He
right on
was
that?
arrested in Yes, he was arrested in New York City. He was invited there to give readings and a lecture and all that. And he was arrested by the New York City police for practicing medicine without a license. So he was put in prison, or he might have just been in jail. I think he was just there overnight. But Cayce was a very sensitive individual. He never ever expected that he would fall foul of the law, and for him, even though he was released, I believe the next day,
Yeah.
he really was crushed. He was like, "Oh my God, what's gone wrong?" He felt like he had done something really bad, which in fact he hadn't. He had just been doing what he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it made him very tentative from then on. He was very reluctant to speak in public because a lot of people could misquote him. So he stuck with the readings. He would teach Sunday school at the church in Virginia Beach, but he avoided the glamour and the glitz, if you like.
Okay, that's probably a good thing. Yet again, to have that ability and to be so vocal about it at the time and to be accepted by the masses and to a certain degree, that's pretty incredible. Now, I tell me if this is the best time to discuss, because I know that you attempted to open a complementary medical office, and per your words, it kind of failed. So, where did you head in this direction, knowing everything that you knew at this point and coming to the States?
Well, I'm skilled in some ways. I have a very Western form of training, but
Yeah.
there are others who have different types of training: acupuncture, osteopathy. The others were massage therapists. They also play a very important part in healing. Um, so I tried to get a multidisciplinary clinic together, but my luck didn't work out in that way. People were reluctant to throw money in the kitty, if you like, to get it started.
Oh, man.
So it was, I still remained in contact with them. If somebody needed a chiropractor,
Yeah.
I knew a very good one. So I said, you should go and visit her. Or if you needed a homeopath, I knew an excellent homeopath, and he's also still practicing in Virginia. So I was able to send people to him. If you like the acupuncture, the Chinese way of doing medicine, I know a very good guy, and he's still practicing. So these were always ways I was able to give people a full range of choices, rather than just strictly dealing with our somewhat very limited Western approach.
Okay. And what year was that?
Oh, golly gosh. It was probably 98,
Oh,
96, 97.
98, because that's so great. I think about all the healers that I use, like it's that vast array. Like I have a massage therapist that I use twice a month, but if I feel I need to go to the chiropractor, and there's a homeopath that's on my list, like I'm just listening to you going, oh my gosh, I would have so loved that. All right, so when
Hmm.
that didn't work, I know
Hmm.
you had, okay, we're going to talk about the UFO sighting that you had June of 2012.
Hmm.
How did that influence things, and what happened?
In 2012?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, at that stage, I had before then, I had decided to just practice family medicine,
Mm.
but do it from a holistic perspective on my own. It was a risky decision, but for many people, they just decided to become employees of the hospital, or whatever corporation was trying to take over the area from in terms of medical care. But what I was offering was very popular, so I never lacked for patients.
Mhm.
Um, then I was going along quite contentedly, and then I had another revelation. It's like, okay, you think you've reached a plateau.
Yeah.
No, there's more out there, buddy boy. So it was a Saturday afternoon. I was drinking some tea, just looking out over the valley. A beautiful day, when all of a sudden, to my amazement, there were two craft approaching from the east. Um, I was stunned, to put it mildly. Uh, One of the desires I had when I was young was to become an Air Force pilot. I was quite gung ho. So I knew a lot about aeronautics. I just love airplanes and aeronautics and the developments in the field, etc. So I keep an eye on that, even though I've never flown an airplane. I love airplanes, though. It's just an intrinsic love of mine. So I knew that they were not our craft. They were long, cylindrical. Some people call them cigar shaped. If a cigar is in one of those tubes, this very snub nose at both ends, they looked to me like silver colored or aluminum colored. They were glinting in the sky. So this is not a hallucination. I was not looking for strange stuff in the sky on that beautiful day. And they made no sound. They followed one after another. So I knew this was wrong, because if there are airplanes too close to each other, this massive turbulence, and the airplane on the rear can lose control and crash. It's very dangerous to be in the wake of another craft. You must keep your distance, staggered either above or below. So that was just amazing. And then I just knew they were there for me. Apparently I was the only one that saw them. Nobody else in the little locale where I lived reported any such thing.
Mm.
So I waved to them. I was drinking tea, so I raised my cup to them, as if to say thank you for coming by. And they flew over the roof of my house and just disappeared the other end. I couldn't see them after that. They were lost in the forest. So I said, okay, that's different. So who the heck are they, and where have they come from, and why are they flying over my house?
Yeah.
So I, of course, what everybody does, they got on the internet And they had the usual saucer craft, and I said, no, no, not that one. So I just kept on flicking down through the images, and I said, bingo, that's it. So there are lots of images of cigar-shaped craft. So I said, okay, all right, so they're extraterrestrials. Again, who are they? Where have they come from? Why are they here? Why are they flying over my house? I still had, oodles of questions that I really couldn't answer. So I began to tune into people who were channeling messages from extraterrestrials. So suddenly I had another mind expanding moment. Okay, we're not alone. This is amazing. We are a planet that has somehow gained the attention of people who apparently are very much more advanced in technology and probably awareness than we are. So, fortunately, then I came across a group who had experiences with extraterrestrial craft. Some of them were in that Earthkeeper group. The man who ran that show, he was interested in getting people who are aware to travel to sacred sites around the world. And I said, what are sacred sites? I mean, it's like I hadn't heard about sacred sites before. So that opened my awareness to ancient Irish history, because there are lots of sacred sites around Ireland. It's just, I thought, they're just in Ireland. That's all. They were part of the spirituality then. It became infused into what eventually became Celtic Christianity. So I had my mind blown there. I said, oh, you mean they are part of some greater story? Yes, they are part of some greater story. And I said, oh, okay. And then the thought hit me, is it something got to do with Atlantis? And the answer I got clearly was yes. So I had to research Atlantis and the ancient Irish myths about a land to the west. And so I became aware of a different history. Often it's the opposite of what the one you're taught. So
Yes.
in Ireland's case, you are taught that civilization came from the east. And yes, yes, the Romans and others did come from the east, yes. But the original stories, if you go back to the beginning, said that they came from the west. And I was thinking, well, that's not possible, because, the United States and Canada, they're too far away. But no, there was a land in the middle of the Atlantic. In Irish, they call it Tir na Nog, which means the land of eternal youth. And it's, oh, okay, so that was Atlantis. They had an advanced civilization in Atlantis. Oh, okay, all right. And then they had interactions with beings from other civilizations out there in the cosmos. Oh, okay. I get it now. Okay. It all begins to make sense. So I wrote a little book about Ireland and its connections to Atlantis, and it's on my website. It's free of charge. It's not a very long book. It won't
Nice.
hopefully bore you, but it's there, and you can see how the Western people, the Celtic people, the Basque people, uh, were refugees from Atlantis, basically.
Isn't it so fun
So
to
have I talked to you?
no, it's to be a lifelong learner, to
No.
consistently have like to go, oh, I know a lot, and then go, oh my God, there's more, and then there's more than that, and then there's more than that. So how did
Mhm.
this influence you in your next steps?
Almost the very first one, probably the second site that came onto my screen was one called 2012 portal.blogspot.com. And had just been started 3 months earlier by a gentleman by the code name of Cobra.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, that's cool. But then he talked about having advanced healing technology.
Mm.
And it's like, no way. Seriously? Okay, okay, that sounds good. And he said he had a tachyon chamber.
Okay.
I said, get out of here. Seriously? Now we're into another realm. Oh my gosh. Right. So I immediately sent a big long email describing who I was and what I was interested in. And
And you could do an
I
email at
said,
this
I
point.
really love.
Didn't have to be snail mail. You could just
Yes.
contact directly. Awesome. Okay. So
No,
cinema.
straight away. So he very kindly sent me a reply. I sent him like a 10-page thing. He sent me a one paragraph reply, which is very typical of him, but that's fine.
Yeah, I hear you.
Anyway, by the time I eventually was in a position to invest in one, it was 2015. So that's when I opened a new center, which included a tachyon chamber. So there we are.
Okay, go full force into that. What is that? What does it do? I know you talked about
Mm.
sacred geometry, and yeah, just enlighten us.
Yeah. Well, one of the subjects I've loved always has been the sciences, physics, chemistry to a lesser degree, but physics. And I was one of my best subjects in high school was mathematics. I just had a natural talent for mathematics, and so people say, well, you should be a scientist, you should be to do this. No, I'm going to go to medical school. What? It's got nothing to do with mathematics. Wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Then I became aware of sacred geometry and how everything fits together. There are other dimensions. I said, oh, okay. And so I learned about I had learned about universal constants because they're part of physics, it's part of quantum physics. But I loved it because it just made sense. I didn't see the practical application of that, but the tachyon chamber involves the concentration of tachyons, which are subatomic particles, and they're the ones that would be called cosmic rays. They come from outer space. Nobody knows where they come from. They come from all directions. So it's the whole of the cosmos is redolent with these very fast tachyon particles. That's what tachyon means. Tachy is the Greek. And I did some Greek in high school too, for rapid or fast, like a tachometer in your car. It measures the mileage and the speed. So it all began to like pile into my shell-shocked brain at this stage. So what I understood was that geometry was very impossible. It was very important. I was going to say impossible. Important in that it offered a container for subatomic particles. When you build a reactor, for example, even a regular, it has to conform to certain geometry or else it won't work. In fact, it has to conform to certain ley lines, as I found out later. That's another topic which we can go through if you want to. So the Earth itself is a major creator and storer of energy. So if you have the geometric arrangement in alignment with the Earth's fields, you can concentrate tachyons in a very small location. Now, of course, many people would say, well, that can make a weapon. And yes, you can turn that into a weapon. And unfortunately, in Atlantis, they did that. They used pyramidal energy. And unfortunately, there was a dark priesthood which took it over, and they couldn't manage it because you have to have the right intent in order to use this technology in a way that's beneficial to humankind. So that was what caused the disaster in Atlantis. The dark priesthood took it over. They couldn't handle it because their energy vibrations were too low. And so it caused an eruption or a split in the earth. That's another topic. So if you can concentrate it, if you can concentrate the tachyons in a small space and then let the human body be admitted or put in a tachyon field, a structured tachyon field, you can rejuvenate your body. And of course, this went in perfectly in line with what I'd read from Edgar Cayce. He said, with this civilization in Egypt, they were refugees from Atlantis also, but they were the high priests who brought with them the technology to build pyramids. Of course, their pyramids are massive. But everything there is according to sacred geometry. You've heard other speakers, I'm sure, reinforce that. So those pyramids are not accidental. They're there specifically at that point because that's the center point. It's the geodetic center of the surface of the Earth. So it's the most important place on the planet. So that's why they had to be there.
Okay, I hadn't heard that before. And talking about pyramids quickly, there are pyramids all over the Earth, hidden underwater. Oh my gosh! Right? How would you further that? Like China,
the navies in the world. Yes, in Xi'an province, yes, there are thousands of them.
Thousands.
And to prevent that being discovered, Mao Zedong ordered trees and shrubs to be built on the pyramids, so they would somehow disguise them. And there's a pyramid in Arkansas. It's on the Arkansas River. When I was with Earthkeeper, the leader of Earthkeeper, he's from Arkansas, and he said, I can show you a pyramid. And I said, get out of here. So he said, no, we'll take you down by the Arkansas River, called Pinnacle Mountain, because he said they have to disguise what it is. So if you look up Pinnacle Mountain.
So we were talking about, for just a moment, we were talking about pyramid in Arkansas. So please continue. Because I'm going to state, I have heard through Dolores Cannon, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, that Arkansas, unbelievably, is a state of very high energy. So you talking about that does not surprise me at all. Okay, so what did you see it? What was it like?
Yes. Well, we had our meeting there in 2012. So it was a very powerful moment. It looks like a pyramid, but you see, when you look at it, it's covered with trees, etc., etc. But it's in the shape of a pyramid. The base is a square, and it comes to a point. There are four sides to the pyramid, so you just have to be there. Although you can see pictures online, they'll call it Pinnacle Mountain, but of course, it's not a mountain. Once your eyes are opened, you can't unsee it.
Oh man. Okay. So cool. So go ahead with talking about tachyons and just and sacred geometry. Yes, please proceed. That's awesome.
We humans have a very advanced form of DNA. We're a mix and gathering of different race lines from all around the cosmos, especially this galaxy. So we have a divine blueprint that's really quite extraordinary, and that's what attracts a lot of the darkness too. So what the tachyon chamber can do is it can realign the DNA to the original imprint. In Atlantis, they live for extended periods of time, even into the immediate post-Atlantean period. There were those who lived for a long time. In the Bible, they talk about Methuselah and all of those people living 900 years. Even Sarah in the Bible, she was able to have children well into her 90s. So we look at that and we laugh. We say that's impossible. Well, at that time, it was possible. So we have to understand that even our DNA is made of sacred geometry. You've seen pictures of it. It's all wound. I'm trying to think of the word. It's in knitting. You do. Anyway, it's coiled multiple times.
Yeah.
Coiled. Yes. There's a knitting word for that. I can't remember it right now. So it's braided. It's braided. So it's twisted on itself many times. If you were to stretch it out, it would be miles long. But instead, it's coiled and then the coils are wrapped around coils, and then other coils. So it's very dense, okay, and it can fit inside a cell. So there's tremendous power in the DNA that can be unlocked. And this also is what tachyon chambers can do. They can realign your DNA. They can unfurl those telomeres at the end, and also bring in higher dimensional realizations. Because we're not just human animals. We have a soul, a spirit, and through spirituality, you can reach out to that higher dimensional level. But the tachyons will help you do that. If you're following a spiritual path, certainly it will add enormously to your understanding. And I have developed enormously too. I've had remarkable experiences, and a lot of my clients have had remarkable experiences. So
Well,
carry on.
Let's talk about your chambers. So right now it is visiting them in Virginia. If you wouldn't mind taking a minute to explain that, and then explain potentially some of the healings or discoveries that some of your clients have had or experienced.
Some of them, okay. Well, I think I've dealt with the geometry. Have I done that so far? Also,
Yes.
crystals.
Yeah. Oh, crystals. Yes.
It's right behind me. The chamber is right behind me in that closed door.
Okay.
We're a few feet of the tachyon chamber, and it has, of course, it has a force field around it. So we're in the force field, as I say. Also, I've got to mention that Star Trek. If you remember back in the 60s, going on into the 70s, 80s, a lot of truths were shown in there, and that's, I think, what was triggering for me, because I love Star Trek. But I thought it was all fanciful and wasn't really true. But it was great. Right. It was a great story. But in fact, those were actually based on truth. So just want to throw that in. Our bodies are sacred. They're sacred because they reverberate with higher dimensional energies. Even our bones. We have 3 bones in each finger, except the thumb. This bone, if you multiply it by the golden ratio, it produces a length of this bone. If you multiply it by the golden ratio, it makes this bone here. If you multiply that, you find the length of the bone, the metacarpal, in your hand. If you multiply it by the sacred geometry, the golden ratio, it measures that ulna bone that you have there. So, and that continues up on. There are other, like the heart, also is a vortex. So it's a very high dimensional area there. The energy circulates. The very first movement in utero, the very first sign of life, is the heart. That's our center. That's where our soul attaches to the physical body at that point there. So you will see the baby's heartbeat like that. That's the pulse, and it's the same pulse is what created the universe that we live in.
And apparently, can I add that when the egg and the sperm get together, apparently there's a little like explosion, like a good explosion of energy, and it's not just, oh, they're coming together and they're mating. It's just a creation, a divine creation.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. So everything has to mimic the codes of creation. You can't escape it. So everything reflects back on Creator, her creation. So our bodies are sacred geometry in motion. And there are many people on the internet that will show you that if you need to see that. But the heart chakra, Master Jesus, Jeshua, said that as you think in your heart, so you are. So that's where the cord to your soul attaches through there. So that center, the sinoatrial node, as they call it in medicine, that's the heartbeat. And of course, it is that which keeps our body alive. If you don't have a heartbeat, you won't be here.
Okay, Okay, so when people come to see you to experience the chambers, I heard on one show that I think you recommend or five visits, but everyone can be different. Yeah, where are you? Okay, at that point, and I know you have people all over the world who come to see you to experience them. What have some of the experiences been?
Okay. I mean, some of them are physical,
Yeah,
some of them are emotional, some of them are spiritual. So it varies from person to person.
yeah.
And, but, most people, like at Casey's time, they're concerned about their physical health. They may wish to feel better about, the spiritual aspect of their life. But really what makes a difference is the physical. Um, Almost everybody experiences a surge of energy in the body.
Yeah.
Some experience healings. I've seen some people. Well, it was difficult for me to say it in public before, but I've had people have immediate healings for life-threatening illnesses. I had one lady who returned to her surgeon who was just about to do some surgery on her, and I was doing an ultrasound just to be sure that everything was as he expected to be, and the tumors were gone. Um, so that, for her, of course, she expected that. She was one of those people that has just fierce determination to succeed. And she had originally came to me not for herself, but for her dogs. And
Oh,
so, yes, they're mammals. They deserve to be healed too.
yeah. Yes.
So she brought her
Oh,
dogs, and she said, they're getting old, but and I don't want to put them down. My veterinarian says, they've got bad arthritis. They're staggering around. They look miserable, and why not? And she said, no. Even if I could just have them for another few months, just so I can enjoy them. So I said, well, I've had a few animal encounters, and they've gone well. Let's see if we can do some age reversal here, because that's what she was hoping for. So she bought she had a minivan with the sliding door at the side, and both of them she had to help out from the rear. They couldn't jump out, in other
mhm.
words, because it would have been too hard. So she lifted them to the ground, both of them, and they were very, very kind, very gentle. They shuffled rather than ran around. They shuffled, and so but they were very kind. And very comfortable. I've noticed that the animals, when they go inside, dogs anyway, they
Love it.
just relax.
Mhm.
It's just like they're having a bath or a shower. It's just like, oh, that's so good. So, the dog seemed happy. And she was taking them back to her van, and she pulled open the door, fully expecting to have to lift both of the dogs up into and they both of them jumped into the back of the
Oh,
van. She was in shock. She just thought, wow,
right.
I've got my dogs back again. They're back to their lively, wonderful, happy selves again. And I started to cry. I never expected that. So for me, it's very moving when you see that happen. It's like miracles do happen. We have access to an infinite power. And just because we're limited in this sphere, we still can access that.
Mhm. And because of
So
that, she was like, me
those,
next.
yes, when she was healthy, she was a chiropractor. She kept her diet good, and spine intact, but she had a diagnosis which was really, really serious. And so her first thought was to come and see me. So she postponed her surgery and
Mhm.
came to see me. And I never promise anything because I can't. It's
Yeah,
it's
and you don't
it's
know.
quite variable.
Hmm.
I don't know. Everybody is at a different level
Hmm.
of development. Um, so I would say that she had a fierce faith. I mean, she wasn't just hopeful. She was like this is going to work. And I was saying, well, maybe, I'm not saying anything. Just yeah, let's give it a try. I'm still trying to maintain that Western, standoff approach. So uh, she was absolutely, of course, absolutely delighted. And so that was, I would say, the most dramatic physical healing. I can go about and tell you about an emotional healing if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Okay, I mean it's your show. You can interrupt me. You can say let's change topic here. So okay, but everybody wants to be healed. I think that's a no brainer.
Yeah.
I had a veteran. He had been in Iraq, and fortunately, many of our soldiers, war harms them really
Oh, yeah.
badly. Even if they're never physically injured, they're emotionally they're emotionally scarred. They see things that no human is supposed to see.
Yeah.
Um, so he came with his wife. Came actually from a long way. He came from, well, I won't tell you his name, but he's from Colorado. And he said, he was going to the Veterans Hospital, and they really can't offer much. I mean, they have medications, etc. But it was his wife that gave him an ultimatum, said, if you don't change, uh, I can't handle this anymore. Our marriage is going to end. So okay, that's serious. So they both came, and so he had his first session in the chamber. It was a beautiful day. So after he had his first session, by the way, he came alone the first time. After the first session, he said, "I feel really good." And I said, "Okay, well, maybe before your second session, you could go out on the parkway. It's up on the mountains, and it's a beautiful way to drive and stop and look over the into the valley, etc. The Blue Ridge Parkway. You probably heard of that." So he came back for his afternoon session, and he said, "Doc, I'm healed." And I said, "Okay, all right." I mean, wishful thinking. I just thought, well, maybe he just wanted to please me. But I just said, "Okay, well, let's do the second session anyway." So he was very nice. If I said he needed a second session, he would do that. And he got out after the second session. He said, "I feel wonderful." And I said, okay, well, how do you feel different? He said, "Well, I had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue." And he said, "I didn't tell you, but when I was on the mountain and I got out there, I started to walk, and I just kept walking." And I said, he had no fatigue. It's just gone. So he said, "Now I'll challenge," because he was a Marine as well. So he was once upon a time in great physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to take one of the trails down into the valley and make the same trail up again at the far side. So he said, "I did that, and I wasn't the least bit tired." And I said, "Wow, I mean, this was a Marine. You can't fool him. He's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going
Oh,
to
no.
just believe something." So he completed his series, went back home, and then I got a call from his wife, and she said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Oh.
thank you, thank you, thank you." You saved her marriage. But she said, "Now I need healing because I'm so messed up. I've lived with him for X number of years, and we'll bring the kids as well." And I said, "Oh boy, oh boy." So again, but it was a wonderful meeting that I had with them, all four of them, and they all had sessions. And so that was a I can't fake that. And,
Yeah.
so emotional healing, yes, your emotional body, your astral body, however you want to call it, is real. It needs healing too. And he had got the healing. And eventually he became a politician in Colorado. And I won't tell you his name, but he was definitely wanting to give back to the community what he
Wow.
had.
Wow. So interesting. And it is so great, like not only changing one life, but within that, even if the wife and the kids didn't come, changing their lives and just the trickle effect. Tell me, and maybe we'll end with this before we go into the Just Be practice. Did you create the chamber yourself? Did Cobra already have them done? How did it come to be?
It came in a package and was delivered
No
to
way.
me, and there were instructions on how to set it up. So I had to set it up under his guidance. I mean, he would do a Zoom like this and take a look at it, assess the energy. He has obviously a technology which he got from the Pleiadians, so he's able to check on it to make sure, because he would often say, "No, move that about 2 inches that way." So everything has to be done
It has
right.
to be
In fact,
perfect.
I got an upgrade to the chamber recently, and again I had to show him the on Zoom what it looked like, and he said, "No, there's something wrong." I said, "Oh dear." He said, "Oh, okay. Can I see that crystal over there?" He said, "That's in the wrong place. That's in the wrong place." And I just
Just
realized,
knows.
oh, we've got cats here. We've got Egyptian cats here. One of them likes to get inside the chamber. Of course, they're very attracted to it. So I think he jumped up and knocked one of the crystals over. So when I saw that and readjusted it, he looked at it. He said, "Yeah, that's perfectly aligned." So it's functioning perfectly.
That is so great. Is that so for you? Is that what you like with sacred sites? What do you do right now for? Do you do the sessions? What's the combination of what you do?
Again, I still offer 3 to 5 sessions. So the maximum I prefer to do is two. I think if you're new and you have too many sessions all at once, it can be a little intense.
Too much.
So I don't want people to go away complaining. I just don't want complaints. That's just me.
Yeah.
And so I prefer to just do it easily and gradually. So 2 per day is what I recommend. So if they come, stay a night in the local motel or hotel, they'll be gone the next day still.
Okay. So I will definitely include your website down there in case anyone's interested. Is it Marion, Virginia? Is that where you're located?
It is Marion, Virginia, and
Okay.
it's on the intersection of two ley lines,
Okay.
divine masculine
Nice.
and divine feminine lines. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is what you do right now. That is it. This is it.
That is what I do. Yes.
Nice.
hmm
All right, let me see if I have any other questions. I think we covered it. We could get much more deep within it, but also noting that this is Palladian technology that
hmm
you are using. It just beautiful. All right, let's go into the practice. You mentioned to me, oh, where's my little note? So what are you going to
hmm
do? What are you going to do for our audience today?
Just be practice.
Well, for me, the master that I prefer to work with is Master Yeshua or Jesus. It's just that's the way I came into this world. I was born into an Irish tradition that was very redolent with that, so
Yeah.
it became part of my nature. I learned Latin, some Greek. I sang in the choir, all of the old hymns. So these were based on ancient modes of singing according to sacred geometric principles. Music also has to be beneficial. It has to form that resonance within your body, and our bodies are temples. Remember that our bodies are temples, and that's why a temple should reflect the human body. If you look at Montmartre in Sacré-Cœur in France, in Paris, those were built by the returning knights from the Holy Land, and they built it. It's actually a physical structure that resonates with the human body.
Mm.
So that's why it sounds when you speak in that cathedral, even in a whisper, you can hear it reverberating through. So when you sing in there,
Oh,
especially those ancient chants that those knights brought back from Egypt, they used to sing in those. I'm sorry, my electricity is running out here. There we go. They used to sing in those pyramids long ago. They form sacred geometric shapes if you were to measure the sonic waves inside. So that's why chanting is very important. That's why singing all of these old songs are very important. So where was I going with that?
Going into the practice, connecting with Jesus.
Maybe, oh, yeah. Yes. So that's a long way of doing it. There's only one prayer that the Master Yeshua gave to us, and we call it the Lord's Prayer. One of the things I love to do, I love to go back to original documents, and the original prayer was in Aramaic. So I taught myself the prayer in Aramaic.
Ooh, all right, awesome.
So, so it can be sung, but I will just speak it, and it's not just a prayer. It resonates with each of your chakra centers. We have 7 major chakras. So Edgar Cayce told us that. He said the Lord's Prayer is not just a prayer. It's the resonator for your chakras. So my preamble to meditation is I say the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. You can say it in English or any other language. It's still fine. But I prefer the language that Jesus and his disciples use because it seems to me to resonate better.
Okay.
So we can do that. Will I show that now?
Yeah, please do. And I'm going to take just a second, put my hand on my heart, and just really receive what you're about to deliver. Okay, I'm ready. I hope the audience is ready.
Mm-hmm. And let me just say that the energy, the life force is stored in your first chakra. It comes up through your body. It reaches up to the pituitary center, and then my cup runneth over. That's one of the phrases. And so it distributes that energy back down into your body again. So that's when the cup. And if you look at the anatomy of the pituitary gland, it's in what's called the sella turcica. It's just what they call it in anatomy. That is the cup, okay, where the pineal is centered. So when it's filled up with this beautiful energy, it overflows, and so it's distributed down through the other centers in your body. So I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. I mean, I'm ready too.
So I'm just going to take 3 nice breaths in and out. And the out breath has to be 3 times the in breath. Avun de marshmaya, itkara shamach, te malkutach. Nechwe sibianach lakan de bashmaya afra ar ah. Avlan lachma de sun chanan yomana. Washpuchan halwein wachtachain. Akana dach chanan shwachnal chayvein. Wela tachlan nisuna. Ela patsan min bisha. Metol jalache malkuta wa chaylawata spuchte. La alam almin. Amen.
Okay, audience, keep a moment of silence. Feel that? Okay, if it's cool, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back. Yet, if you want to stay longer, stop the recording, or yeah, because that was so powerful. And Dr. Joseph is still in it for just a second, so I don't want to rush you as well. Holy smokes. That was during it. I could feel just what you were talking about, going up, coming down. Like it felt like there was just, my body was so connected to your words. And then after it, just feeling it like an increase in flow. Okay. Is that how you would describe it for yourself?
Yes. People often call that the Kundalini experience.
Yes.
It's the rising of the primal energy, reaches your creative center, and then flows down through all of the chakra points, the minor chakra points in your body.
That was quite unique. I've been doing this for a while and have lots of practices, which they're all really, really good, but this was really different. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and giving people, again, another alternative for healing, for mind, body, spirit healing. Thank you so much for also being a conduit of continued learning and knowledge, and not only taking what has come to you, but facilitating that, putting action with it. So good for you. That's so great. Hey, everyone, thank you. Dr. Joseph, thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to say to close us out?
We're all individuated shards, fragments, fractals of the great I am. That's who you really are. That's all.
That was great. Thank you so much. All right, y'all stay tuned next week. And thank you, Dr. Joseph. It was great. All right, until next time.
Peace.
Yes. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.